The transport ship dropped Jake Martinez on the dusty surface of Kepler 442b just as the twin suns began to set. He grabbed his tool bag and looked around at the mining colony that would be his home for the next month. Nothing fancy, just prefab buildings and equipment yards scattered across the red dirt. Jake had seen dozens of places like this. What made this place different stood 2 miles away from the main settlement. The Watcher rose from the ground like a giant crystal tree, reaching 200 feet into the orange sky. Its surface caught the dying sunlight and threw it back in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Jake had seen pictures, but seeing it in person was something else entirely. "First time seeing it up close?" asked a voice behind him. Jake turned to see a woman in a white lab coat walking over. She was maybe 40, with brown hair pulled back and tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm Dr. Lisa Campbell, head of the research team here." "Jake Martinez," he said, shaking her hand. "I'm here to fix your mining equipment." "Right, the plasma extractors have been acting up again. But most visitors want to know about the Watcher first." She nodded toward the massive structure. "It's been standing there for 1,358 years. Never moved, never made a sound, never responded to anything we've tried." Jake squinted at the alien thing. From this distance, he could see the base where it met the ground. Something about the way it sat there bothered him, like a machine that wasn't running right. "What do you think it does?" "We believe it's some kind of guardian or defense system. The alien records we've found suggest it protected this system from something dangerous. The colonial government has spent millions trying to figure out how to turn it on, but nothing works." They walked toward the main building as Lisa talked. She told him about the teams of scientists who had studied the Watcher for decades, linguists trying to decode alien writing on its surface, engineers attempting to understand its power systems, physicists measuring energy fields around it. All of them had failed to make any progress. "The thing is," Lisa continued, "we know something bad happened here a long time ago. The aliens who built this place just disappeared. Their cities are empty ruins. Whatever they were trying to keep out, it might come back someday." Jake nodded but wasn't really listening. His mind was on the mining equipment he was here to fix. That was what he understood. Machines that broke down and needed repair. He had been fixing things since he was 12 years old, starting with his dad's old truck and working his way up to quantum drives and plasma converters. The research station buzzed with activity even in the evening. Scientists worked at computer terminals, analyzing data that never seemed to tell them anything new. Jake could see the frustration on their faces. They were smart people trying to solve a puzzle that had stumped everyone for over 1,000 years. "We've had Nobel Prize winners come here," Lisa said as she showed him to his quarters. "The best minds in xenoarchaeology and alien technology. None of them could make the Watcher respond to anything." "Maybe they're thinking about it wrong," Jake said. Lisa stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "Well, you're all treating it like some mysterious alien mystery. But what if it's just a machine? A really big, really old machine that's broken down?" Lisa stared at him. "It's not just a machine. It's technology so advanced we can barely comprehend it. The materials alone are beyond anything we can manufacture. The energy patterns it generates don't follow any known physics. Everything follows physics," Jake said. "And everything breaks down eventually, even alien stuff." That night, Jake stood at his window looking out at the Watcher. The research team had powerful lights aimed at it, studying every detail of its surface. In the bright illumination, Jake could see things the scientists probably missed. His eyes were trained to spot mechanical problems, not alien mysteries. The base of the structure looked wrong somehow. There were stress patterns in the crystal that reminded him of metal fatigue. And there, about 20 feet up from the ground, something that looked almost like an access panel. It was covered with the same crystal growth that made up the rest of the structure, but the shape underneath looked familiar. Jake had seen thousands of maintenance panels in his career. They all had the same basic design, whether they were on Earth-built ships or alien salvage. Someone had to be able to get inside to fix things when they broke. He studied the pattern of crystal growth around what he thought was a panel. It looked natural, like it had grown there over centuries. But crystal growth followed patterns, and this pattern suggested something underneath, something that had been covered up by time and neglect. The more he looked, the more convinced he became. The Watcher wasn't some incomprehensible alien artifact. It was a machine, and like all machines, it had been built to be maintained. Somewhere under all that crystal growth were the access points that alien technicians had used to keep it running. The problem was that no alien technicians had been around for over 1,000 years. The Watcher had been trying to keep itself operational, but eventually things broke down. Systems failed. Memory cores corrupted. Maintenance schedules were missed. Jake smiled to himself. Tomorrow he would take a closer look at the Watcher, not as some mysterious alien artifact, but as a broken machine that needed a good mechanic. He pulled out his tablet and started reviewing the specifications for the mining equipment he was supposed to fix. Plasma extractors were tricky devices, but he had worked on them before. They had a tendency to overheat when the cooling systems got clogged with dust. Simple problem, simple solution. As he read through the technical manuals, Jake kept glancing out the window at the Watcher. Whatever it was supposed to do, it wasn't doing it now. And in his experience, when something wasn't working, there was usually a simple reason why. The scientist could keep studying their energy patterns and alien physics. Jake would approach this the way he approached every mechanical problem. Find out what was broken, figure out how to fix it, and get the machine running again. After all, how different could alien technology really be? Jake woke up before dawn and headed straight for the mining equipment. The plasma extractors were exactly as broken as he expected. Dust had clogged the cooling vents and the primary heat exchanger needed to be replaced. He spent the morning taking apart the machinery and cleaning every component. By lunchtime, he had the extractors running better than they had in months. The mining foreman was happy, but Jake's mind was already on the Watcher. He grabbed a sandwich and his toolkit and walked toward the alien structure. Dr. Campbell was there with her research team, running the same scans they ran every day. They had expensive equipment measuring energy levels and analyzing the crystal composition. Graduate students took notes while senior scientists discussed theories that never led anywhere. "Good morning, Jake," Lisa called out as he approached. "How are the extractors?" "Fixed," he said, setting down his tool bag. "Now I want to take a look at this thing." Lisa laughed nervously. "I appreciate your interest, but this isn't mining equipment. We're dealing with technology that's completely beyond human understanding." Jake walked around the base of the Watcher, studying the stress patterns he had noticed the night before. Up close, they were even more obvious. The crystal structure was under strain, probably from trying to maintain systems that were no longer working properly. "See this?" Jake pointed to a section where the crystal surface was slightly discolored. "This looks like heat damage. Something inside is running hot." "That's impossible," said Dr. Peterson, one of the senior researchers. "Our thermal scans show the structure is completely inert." "Your thermal scans are measuring the surface temperature," Jake said. "But if this thing is like any other machine, the real heat is generated deep inside. The crystal shell is probably designed to dissipate heat, but if the cooling system is broken, you'd get hot spots like this." He continued walking around the base until he found what he was looking for. The access panel was almost completely hidden under centuries of crystal growth, but Jake could make out its edges. "There," he said, pointing to the spot. "That's a maintenance panel." Lisa looked where he was pointing, but shook her head. "I don't see anything." "That's just part of the crystal formation." "No, look at the pattern. See how the crystal growth is thicker here? That's because it's growing around something that was already there. Something rectangular, about 3 feet wide and 2 feet tall." Jake opened his tool bag and pulled out a sonic screwdriver and a small crowbar. The research team watched in horror as he approached the Watcher with basic hand tools. "Wait," Dr. Peterson shouted. "You can't just start chipping away at an irreplaceable alien artifact." "Why not?" Jake asked. "It's been sitting here broken for over 1,000 years. Nothing you've tried has worked. Maybe it's time to try something different." "We could damage it permanently," Lisa said. "This structure represents technology so advanced that damaging even a small part could set back human understanding by centuries." Jake paused and looked at the assembled scientists. They were all brilliant people, but they were thinking about the Watcher as a museum piece instead of a machine. They wanted to understand it before they touched it, but understanding came from taking things apart and seeing how they worked. He reached into his cooler and pulled out a beer. The research team watched in confusion as he popped it open and took a long drink. "Lady," he said to Lisa, "I've fixed everything from plasma converters to quantum drives. I've worked on alien salvage that nobody understood. I've brought dead ships back to life using nothing but spare parts and stubbornness." He took another sip of beer and grinned. How different can this thing be? Lisa started to say something about the complexity of alien technology and the dangers of interfering with unknown systems. She mentioned the failed attempts by Nobel Prize winners and the millions of dollars spent on research. "Hold my beer," Jake said, handing the bottle to a stunned graduate student. He turned to the watcher and activated his sonic screwdriver. The tool was designed to remove mineral deposits from ship hulls, and it worked just fine on alien crystal growth. He started chipping away at the accumulated material around what he was sure was an access panel. "This is insane," Dr. Peterson muttered, but he didn't try to stop Jake. None of them did. They were too shocked by his casual approach to their life's work. Jake worked methodically, clearing away centuries of crystal buildup. The sonic screwdriver made quick work of the outer layers, and the crowbar helped him pry away larger chunks. Within 30 minutes, he had exposed a rectangular section that was clearly different from the surrounding crystal. "Well, I'll be damned," Lisa whispered. "It is a panel." The exposed surface was smooth and dark with geometric patterns that looked almost like circuit boards. In the center was a circular depression about the size of Jake's fist, surrounded by smaller indentations in a pattern that suggested it was designed for appendages very different from human hands. "Now what?" asked the graduate student who was still holding Jake's beer. Jake examined the panel carefully. It looked like a diagnostic port, similar to what he'd seen on advanced human machinery. He pulled out his portable scanner, a device designed to interface with various types of computer systems. "The connection won't fit," he said, studying the alien port, "but I can make an adapter." He spent the next 20 minutes rigging up a connection using spare parts from his toolkit, wire, connectors, and a small computer chip that could translate between different communication protocols. It wasn't pretty, but it should work. Jake plugged his scanner into the makeshift adapter and inserted it into the alien port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his scanner's display lit up with data streams unlike anything he had ever seen. The watcher's surface began to pulse with brighter light. Deep harmonic tones emanated from within the structure, sounds that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The research team backed away as the alien artifact showed signs of life for the first time in over 13 centuries. "What did you do?" Lisa asked, her voice filled with wonder and terror. Jake grinned as data flowed across his scanner's screen. "I plugged it in." Jake stared at his scanner as streams of data flowed across the screen. The symbols were alien, but the patterns were familiar. Error codes, diagnostic reports, system status updates. He had seen similar displays on countless broken machines. "It's trying to run a startup sequence," he said, watching the data scroll by. "But something's wrong. The same errors keep repeating." Dr. Campbell and her team crowded around trying to make sense of what they were seeing. The watcher continued to pulse with light and the harmonic tones grew stronger. After 13 centuries of silence, the ancient guardian was finally responding. "Can you understand any of it?" Lisa asked. Jake nodded slowly. "I don't know the language, but I know machine code when I see it. This thing has been stuck in a boot loop for over 1,000 years. It's trying to complete a diagnostic check, but corrupted data keeps making it start over." He pointed to a section of the display where the same sequence of symbols appeared repeatedly. "See that? That's an error message. Something about memory cores and authorization protocols." The scanner beeped and displayed a new message. This one was different, simpler. Jake recognized it immediately. "It's asking for maintenance authorization," he said. "The system won't complete its startup until someone confirms that it's safe to proceed." "But how could you possibly know that?" Dr. Peterson demanded. "This is alien technology from a civilization we know nothing about." Jake unplugged his scanner and started examining the data more carefully. "Because whoever built this thing thought like engineers. They designed it to be maintained, not worshipped. Every machine needs someone to fix it when it breaks down." He spent the next hour analyzing the diagnostic data, while the research team documented everything. The information painted a picture of a sophisticated defense system that had been trying to restart itself for centuries. Each attempt failed at the same point, when the system tried to verify that its memory cores were intact. "The builders were practical people," Jake explained as he worked. "They built this thing to protect their colony from something dangerous. But they also built it to be serviced by regular technicians, not scientists or priests." Lisa was taking notes as fast as she could write. "What kind of danger were they protecting against?" Jake pulled up another section of the diagnostic data. This part was harder to interpret, but he could make out references to something called void feeders and warnings about dimensional incursions. "Something that ate planets," he said grimly. something that existed partially outside normal space. The Watcher was designed to detect these things and fight them off. The implications were terrifying. If the Watcher had been built to defend against interdimensional predators, and it had been offline for over 1,000 years, what had happened to its builders? And more importantly, what would happen if the threat returned? Jake dove deeper into the diagnostic data, trying to understand exactly what had gone wrong. The system was incredibly complex, but the basic problem was simple. Several memory cores had been corrupted over the centuries, probably by cosmic radiation or simple age. The startup sequence required all cores to be verified as functional before the defense systems would activate. "I need to repair the memory cores," Jake said. "But that means getting inside this thing." "Absolutely not," Dr. Peterson said immediately. "The risks are too great. We need to study this data for months, maybe years, before we attempt any kind of repair." "We might not have months," Jake replied. "If this thing was built to protect against something specific and it's been offline for 13 centuries, what do you think are the chances that threat might come back?" Lisa looked worried. "The colonial government needs to be informed immediately. They'll want to bring in specialists, military advisors, emergency protocols. By the time all those people get here and have their meetings and make their plans, it might be too late," Jake said. "I can fix this now today with the tools I have." He started pulling equipment from his tool bag. Quantum computer repair tools, memory core analyzers, circuit bridges that could bypass damaged components. Most mechanics carried basic versions of these tools. But Jake had invested in the good stuff over the years. "You're talking about performing surgery on technology we don't understand," Dr. Peterson protested. "One wrong move could destroy everything." "One wrong move could also save everyone," Jake countered. "Look, I've been fixing machines my whole life. Alien or human, they all work on the same basic principles. Find the broken part, figure out how to fix it, and get the system running again." He connected his quantum analyzer to the diagnostic port and began mapping the internal structure of the Watcher. The device used exotic scanning techniques to peer inside solid matter and identify component layouts. What he saw amazed him. The interior of the Watcher was a marvel of engineering. Crystalline matrices that served as memory storage, energy conduits that could channel power beyond anything humans could generate, and weapon systems designed to fire into alternate dimensions. But underneath all the advanced technology were the same basic components he recognized from human machines. "There," he said, pointing to his scanner's display. 3 corrupted memory cores in the primary control matrix. I can reach them through maintenance tunnels that run through the base structure." Lisa looked at the scanner readings and shook her head. "Even if you could physically reach them, how would you repair alien memory cores with human tools?" Jake grinned. "Same way I repair anything else. Jury-rig a solution using whatever I have available." He spent the rest of the day preparing for the repair attempt. The maintenance tunnels were designed for the original builders, who had been smaller than humans but with different proportions. Jake would have to crawl through spaces that were barely wide enough for his shoulders. The memory cores themselves were unlike anything in human technology, but Jake's quantum tools could interface with them. He would have to download the corrupted data, clean it using human error correction algorithms, and then upload it back to the alien systems. "This is insane," Dr. Peterson muttered as Jake prepared to enter the Watcher. "Probably," Jake agreed, "but it's also the only chance we have." As the sun set over Kepler 442b, Jake Martinez crawled into the heart of an alien machine that had been waiting 13 centuries for someone to fix it. Behind him, the research team monitored his progress and prayed that a simple mechanic with a tool bag could succeed where the greatest minds in human science had failed. The fate of the colony, and possibly all of humanity, rested on Jake's ability to repair 3 broken memory cores with nothing but human ingenuity and sheer stubborn determination. Jake crawled through the maintenance tunnel, his headlamp casting strange shadows on the crystalline walls. The passage was barely wide enough for his shoulders, and he had to drag his tool bag behind him. The air inside the Watcher felt thick and electric, charged with energy that made his skin tingle. After 20 minutes of crawling, he reached the first memory core chamber. The space opened up enough for him to sit upright and examine the alien technology. The memory core was a beautiful thing, like a crystal flower made of light and thought. But Jake could see the dark spots where corruption had taken hold. He connected his quantum analyzer to the core and began the delicate process of extracting the damaged data. The alien information systems were more advanced than anything humans had built, but data was data. Corruption followed predictable patterns, whether the system was made on Earth or in another galaxy. The repair took 6 hours. Jake worked methodically, cleaning corrupted sectors and rebuilding damaged memory pathways. His back ached from hunching over in the cramped space, and his eyes burned from staring at alien readouts, but he pressed on. When he finally restored the first core, the entire structure around him hummed with renewed energy. Lights that had been dark for centuries began to glow. The Watcher was coming back to life, one system at a time. The second and third cores were easier. Jake had figured out the alien data architecture, and his tools were adapting to the foreign systems. By the time he crawled out of the Watcher 18 hours later, he was exhausted but triumphant. Did it work? Lisa asked as Jake emerged, covered in crystal dust and looking like he hadn't slept in days. The answer came immediately. The Watcher's surface blazed with light that could be seen from orbit. Ancient weapon systems came online, and sensors began scanning space for threats that had been absent for over a millennium. The harmonic tones that had been quiet whispers became a song that resonated through the ground. It worked, Jake said, collapsing onto a nearby crate. The Watcher is fully operational. The celebration was short-lived. Within hours of the Watcher's activation, alarms began sounding throughout the colony. Long-range sensors detected massive quantum distortions at the edge of the solar system. Something was coming, and it was big. Dr. Campbell rushed to the research station's main display where incoming data painted a terrifying picture. The distortions matched theoretical predictions for interdimensional incursions. Whatever the Watcher had been built to fight was returning. "How long do we have?" Jake asked, studying the sensor readings. "Based on the distortion patterns, maybe 6 hours before they reach the inner system," Lisa replied, her voice tight with fear. The first wave of void feeders materialized near the mining outpost on asteroid Kepler 442c. They appeared as writhing shadows that existed partially outside normal spacetime, impossible to look at directly. The outpost's automated defenses opened fire, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the creatures. Within minutes, the outpost went silent. The last transmission showed miners collapsing as their life force was drained away, leaving behind withered husks that had once been human beings. The Watcher immediately began coordinating defensive measures, but Jake quickly realized there was a problem. The ancient Guardian was designed to work with an entire network of similar devices, but it was the only one left. Its weapons were powerful enough to destroy the void feeders, but there were too many targets and not enough firepower. "We need to integrate human ships into the defense network," Jake said, studying the Watcher's tactical displays. "The alien technology is powerful, but it needs our numbers to be effective." Lisa looked skeptical. "How could human technology possibly interface with systems this advanced?" "Same way I interfaced with the diagnostic port," Jake replied. "Jury-rig adapters and make it work." The next few hours were a frantic race against time. Jake worked with the Colonial Defense Force to modify human ships with quantum communicators that could link them to the Watcher's command network. It was crude work, but it gave human pilots the ability to see and target the interdimensional predators. The void feeders reached the main colony just as Jake finished the last ship modification. They swept in like a tide of living darkness, consuming everything in their path. Trees withered and died, buildings crumbled, and people collapsed as their life energy was drained away. But this time, the defenders were ready. The Watcher's weapons lanced out from the planet's surface, tearing holes in reality itself to strike at creatures that existed between dimensions. Human ships, guided by alien targeting systems, fired quantum torpedoes that could actually damage the void feeders. The battle was unlike anything in human history. Pilots fought enemies they could barely perceive, following targeting data from an alien intelligence that had been built for this exact purpose. The Watcher coordinated the defense with precision that no human commander could match, tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously and directing fire where it would be most effective. Jake found himself at the center of the defense network, troubleshooting interface problems and keeping the alien-human hybrid systems running. When communication links failed, he patched them with spare parts. When targeting computers overloaded, he rerouted power through backup systems. The void feeders pressed their attack for hours, wave after wave of creatures pouring through dimensional rifts. The colony's shields held, but barely. Human casualties mounted as the alien predators found ways past the defenses. "We're losing," Lisa said, watching the tactical display. "There are too many of them." Jake studied the battle patterns, looking for weaknesses in the enemy formation. The Void Feeders were intelligent, adapting their tactics to counter human and alien defenses. But they had one weakness. They needed stable dimensional rifts to enter normal space. The Watcher isn't just a weapon, Jake realized suddenly. It's also a factory. It can build more Guardians, but it needs raw materials and a conscious mind to guide the construction process. He pulled up the Watcher's manufacturing protocols, studying designs for Guardian constructs that could be built using local materials. The process was incredibly complex, requiring someone to merge their consciousness with the alien systems to provide creative guidance. "That's impossible," Dr. Peterson said when Jake explained his plan. "Human minds aren't compatible with alien technology." "Maybe not," Jake said, "but I've been interfacing with this thing for days. My brain has been adapting to its thought patterns. I might be able to make it work." Lisa grabbed his arm. "You're talking about permanent fusion with an alien intelligence. We don't know what that would do to your mind, your humanity." Jake looked out at the battle raging in space above them. Human ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. The Void Feeders were winning. "Someone has to try," he said simply, "and I'm the only one who knows how this thing works." He walked toward the Watcher as another wave of creatures descended on the colony. Time was running out, and desperate measures were the only option left. Jake approached the Watcher as explosions lit up the sky above. Void Feeders were breaking through the outer defenses, and human ships were falling back toward the planet. The ancient Guardians' weapons fired continuously, but there were simply too many targets. "Don't do this," Lisa pleaded, following him to the base of the structure. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Jake said, connecting his neural interface headset to the diagnostic port. The Watcher was designed to work with an entire network. Right now it's fighting alone. But if I can merge with its construction protocols, we can build more Guardians. Dr. Peterson arrived with a team of researchers, all of them trying to talk Jake out of what they saw as a suicide mission. The fusion process had never been attempted by humans. They had no idea what it would do to his mind or his body. "I've been interfacing with this thing for days," Jake said, adjusting the neural connections. "My brain patterns have been adapting to its systems. If anyone can make this work, it's me." Above them, another human ship exploded as Void Feeders overwhelmed its defenses. The colony's shields flickered under constant assault. They were running out of time. Jake activated the neural interface and felt his consciousness merge with the Watcher's vast intelligence. It was like diving into an ocean of alien thought, where concepts existed that human language had no words for. For a moment, he was lost in the immensity of it all. Then his mechanic's instincts kicked in. This was just another system to understand, another machine to operate. Jake pushed through the alien sensations and focused on the construction protocols. The Watcher's manufacturing systems came online, drawing raw materials from deep within the planet. Crystalline structures began to grow from the ground around the main Guardian, each one following patterns that Jake guided with his merged consciousness. But the construction process was slow, and the battle above was reaching a critical point. Human defenses were collapsing, and Void Feeders were beginning to reach the planet's surface. Jake needed to speed up the process somehow. That's when he had his breakthrough. The alien construction protocols were designed for perfect Guardians built to exact specifications. But Jake was a mechanic, used to working with whatever materials were available. He began modifying the designs, incorporating human technology and engineering principles. The new Guardians that emerged were hybrids, combining alien superscience with human pragmatism. They were smaller than the Watcher but more numerous, and they could be built much faster using simplified designs that Jake improvised on the spot. Lisa watched in amazement as a dozen new Guardians rose from the ground around the original. Each one was unique, reflecting Jake's creative fusion of human and alien engineering. Some looked like crystal trees, others like metallic towers, but all of them bristled with weapons designed to fight interdimensional predators. The tide of battle turned immediately. The new Guardians added their firepower to the defense network, and their quantum sensors provided better targeting data for human ships. Void feeders that had been overwhelming the defenses suddenly found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered. Jake's consciousness rode the network, coordinating the defense with an efficiency that no human commander could match. He could perceive the battle from multiple angles simultaneously, tracking hundreds of targets and directing fire with perfect precision. The Void Feeders adapted quickly, changing their tactics to counter the new Guardians. But Jake adapted faster. His human creativity, merged with alien intelligence, produced strategies that the interdimensional predators couldn't predict. He built new Guardian variants in real time, each one designed to counter specific enemy tactics. The final assault came at dawn. The remaining Void Feeders gathered for one massive push, trying to overwhelm the defenses through sheer numbers. Jake watched them come and prepared his response. He had been saving materials for one last Guardian, something bigger and more powerful than anything he had built before. As the enemy charged, a new structure erupted from the center of the colony. This one dwarfed even the Watcher, a fusion of human and alien technology that shouldn't have been possible. The Mega Guardian's first shot tore a hole in reality itself, collapsing the dimensional rifts that the Void Feeders used to enter normal space. Cut off from their home dimension, the remaining predators withered and died, unable to maintain their existence in normal space-time. The battle was over. The Void Feeders were gone and the solar system was safe, but the cost had been high. Jake's consciousness was permanently merged with the Guardian network. Transformed into something between human and alien, Lisa found him later, sitting beside the Watcher in a form that was still recognizably human, but changed in fundamental ways. His eyes glowed with the same light as the Guardians, and his skin had taken on a crystalline texture that caught and reflected light in impossible patterns. "How do you feel?" she asked. Jake smiled, and it was still his smile, even if everything else had changed. "Different, but still me. I can feel all the Guardians now, like they're part of my body, and I can sense things in space and other dimensions. The Void Feeders are gone, but there are other threats out there." "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "Now we build more Guardians," Jake said. "This system is safe, but there are other human colonies, other worlds that need protection. The alien civilization that built the Watcher is gone, but humanity can take their place." Over the following months, Jake trained a new generation of human technicians to maintain the Guardian network. His transformation had given him insights into alien technology that revolutionized human science, but he never forgot his roots as a simple mechanic. The research station became a training facility where ordinary engineers learned to work with extraordinary technology. Jake taught them that alien science wasn't magic or mystery, just another type of engineering that followed logical principles. Dr. Campbell established a new field of study that combined xenoarchaeology with practical engineering. Students learned to approach alien artifacts not as sacred mysteries, but as machines that could be understood, repaired, and improved. The Guardian network spread throughout human space, protecting colonies from threats both known and unknown. Each new Guardian incorporated lessons learned from the battle with the Void Feeders, and each one reflected the hybrid approach that Jake had pioneered. Years later, when new alien threats emerged from the depths of space, humanity was ready. The Guardian network detected them at the edge of the galaxy and met them with overwhelming force. The simple mechanic who had once said, "Hold my beer," had given humanity the tools to defend itself against anything the universe could throw at them. Jake Martinez had become the bridge between human and alien technology, proving that sometimes the most complex problems required the most straightforward solutions. He remained at the heart of the Guardian network, a human consciousness merged with alien intelligence, forever watching the stars for signs of danger. And when young engineers asked him for advice on working with incomprehensible alien technology, his answer was always the same: "Remember, it's all just machinery, and every machine can be fixed if you know where to look."